one more minute.
Just make sure you press and you can talk.
You need to do your announcement tonight, or we're going about us being recorded and how to submit input?
Well, all public comment is made in person now,
Okay,
so we're not having to worry about that.
okay,
So we're okay.
that makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, we do need to announce that we're being recorded so that everybody knows we're being recorded. But
Right.
the only thing I need to talk about briefly is the agenda, what you and I talked about.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I'm going to call this meeting to order. And I'm going to conduct a roll call first. Harry Bryant. Here. Okay. Cindy Mahalo.
Here.
Bill Pinto.
Here.
Dane Shoemaker. Here. And Sheila
Sullivan Feeney. Present.
It's a lot of letters. And Janet, as I said, she is here remotely. Is that what you said, Rich?
She's right there.
Okay.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can. Hi, Janet.
Oh, good. I'm glad I can't see me. I'm afraid I'm on a big screen.
You're
Oh, good.
Picture.
Okay, we're at a moment of silence to kick the meeting off. The next topic on the agenda is the approval of our June minutes 2 months ago. So I'm assuming they're right.
I would recommend you approve your agenda first.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
All right.
And then go ahead and approve your minutes.
okay. I see it. Let's approve the agenda. Do I have, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda. Do I have a second?
A second.
Do I need additional yeses, or is that,
You just should do an informal vote if everybody's okay.
okay? Next, we have the approval of the June 7th meeting minutes, which have been out there since June. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes? Okay. I have a second? Second. Okay. Presentations. We don't have much on the agenda tonight in terms of the number of things going on, but we've got two substantial presentations that we're going to give time to. And then following that, we're going to have a discussion about Facebook. Before we kick off, Steve, do you want to mention the new parameters for setting an agenda?
If I can do that. So the state legislature passed a law that pertains to municipalities, and it obviously will work at the Board of Supervisors meetings, but as we've gotten legal advice, it actually works to all meetings of the township, and in particular will impact the EAC. Going forward, the law goes into effect at the end of August, but going forward, that will mean that anything that we wish to discuss in this meeting, we have to have on the agenda 24 hours in advance. And if it's not on the agenda in 24 hours in advance and posted, we cannot really discuss it that night. There's some parameters that you can, but the main thing is that if you're going to deliberate as a committee, it's got to be on the agenda. Or if you're going to make a recommendation to the board, it has to be on the agenda. And so we'll be working through all of those things to make sure that we do them right. But I wanted to make sure that the committee was aware. So if there's something that you want on the agenda, and because we meet on Monday evening and the staff doesn't come in on Sunday, and I'm not going to ask them to for this, everything needs to be to the staff by midday on Friday. so that we have time to make sure it's on the agenda for the night. So, we've been doing really good with a lot of that already. We try to do that pretty well, and we post the agenda on the website, which is one of the requirements. We actually now post it out in the box that's out here. We have a glass box out in the vestibule out here, and it's posted out there as part of the requirements. There are some exceptions where a committee or the board could make a decision to take an action, but if they involve finances or they involve a contract, you're limited in what you can do in those ways. So I just share that so that as you think about what you want to discuss on different times, is to make sure that you work through Bruce and get those to Bruce as early as possible so we can get them on the agenda. And if you're having trouble getting hold of Bruce, feel free to reach out to the office, either to myself or to Nick, who's handling those right now. Any questions about that? I know it's kind of watered down what the whole law is, but it just kind of gives you a general overview of how that works.
Let me tell you about this scenario. We did the agenda, got it done Thursday of last week. Then I had to make a couple of attachments to it. Is that considered modifying the agenda?
Yeah, that's a great question. If the attachment is something that you're going to act on, I would argue it potentially could.
Okay.
It potentially could be. So if it's more of so I would say the minutes should be attached.
Okay.
Because you're acting on approving your minutes.
Okay.
If somebody's doing a presentation, we probably are okay because you're probably not acting on the presentation. You're just getting information, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, it doesn't say that we have to have attachments. The law just says we have to be specific about what the action items are.
Okay.
So, for example, under the Facebook and community outreach, if there was something that you were wanting to do, we should be specific enough in the description of what it is that you want. So let's just say you wanted to create an EAC Facebook page.
Okay.
Then it should say, we'd like to take an action to create an EAC Facebook page. And you should be that specific so that the public has the idea is for the public to have an opportunity to make comment if they choose to, because they know what's exactly on the agenda.
Okay.
We've done a pretty good job, like I said. We have listed items on our agenda pretty well.
Right.
We're just going to spend more time honing down whether it's just discussion or whether there's an action by to it. That makes sense.
Yep. Well, there's two longer presentations. Francine, Locke, from Delaware County's Sustainability Office is going to basically give an introduction to what your group is up to.
Thank you so much for having me here today. Once again, I'm the Chief Sustainability Officer for Delaware County. Next slide, please. So if you're familiar with Delaware County, you would know maybe that the Delaware County Council passed by resolution a Sustainability Commission in 2020. The commission is charged with providing reviews and recommendations to council and departments such as planning, public works, facilities, regarding the preservation and protection of the natural and cultural environment of Delaware County. The members of the commission include county staff and the public, and we live stream our meetings, and you can see the link here. Our next meeting is August 19th. I encourage you guys, everybody to tune in, please. So my role, I started in January of this year. I oversee 6 departments. I'm also responsible for working with the Sustainability Commission on developing a county-wide sustainability plan and also in greening our county operations. And I'll go into that a little bit more. So I'm trying to streamline county operations, and the departments that report to me are planning, the Office of Housing and Community Development, Public Works, Facilities Management, Fleet Management, Parks and Recreation, and Soil and Water Conservation District. And so looking at these departments and developing a guide for all county residents to see who the staff members are in these departments, what is the budget for these departments, what contracts do they hold, what services are you providing, and also what are the key performance indicators for the county? How are we knowing that the fleet management department is successful and that they're infusing sustainability and resilience into their work? And so the work I'm doing with these departments is to develop an open and transparent operational portfolio for the county to see, all residents can see, and aligning their work with our Sustainability Commission's goals for greening the county's operations. So some of the initiatives that we're working on right now include CPACE, if you're familiar with this. This is a clean energy program for businesses. So basically it's a loan that a county business can receive, and it is built into the tax bill of the structure. So a business owner can purchase a property, can receive a loan, and the loan will be paid through the tax bill every year. And the loan actually stays with the property. So if the business owner sells the property, it stays with the building and the new owner. And the reason for this is because we are funding energy conservation measure projects. And that would include things such as relighting or HVAC boiler replacement projects. It could be very pricey to do that for a business owner. And so a lot of times, if the business owner doesn't think they're going to be there for 20 years, they would be deterred from investing in an energy conservation measure project. This program allows for businesses to do this type of energy conservation work in their properties and save money, reduce greenhouse gas emissions. It's just a benefit for all around. We have a CPACE webinar that's going to take place August 11th at 1 p.m. And if you could check out that website, you can share information. So most of you are familiar with the capital improvement program for county government. And we're trying to create an open and transparent process for how the county is spending capital dollars. These are basically loans that the county receives. And we want to make sure that the money that we're spending is being spent responsibly and in ways that are sustainability focused. And so we have a project prioritization list here. So the capital improvement program projects that we're looking into, number one, we're addressing unsafe conditions. So if there's a roof that's collapsing or structurally unsound property, we're going to address that immediately. Non-compliance with regulatory requirements, protecting an existing asset, advancing a strategic goal, advancing the county's sustainability goals. So for example, purchasing electric vehicles as part of our capital improvement program, or investing in energy conservation measures in our buildings. Enhancing community quality of life, leveraging partnerships. A lot of times the county has partners who are sharing grant money, and so we'd like to leverage those partnerships and invest capital dollars in those areas. If the project can be construction ready. So there are projects in the pipeline for our Public Works Department where we have a design, and we're ready to put that out. We would like to have that completed because we have invested in the design. And also, if a project provides economies, if done with other efforts, we're considering that a priority in the capital program. We also have developed a process, and that's actually the first bullet here. We formed a capital project steering committee that has vetted all of the requests from departments as well as the past capital improvement projects. They are being vetted now by a capital projects committee that is meeting this week, and then this will go to council for vote. This is an exciting thing right here. Facility condition and needs assessment is taking place right now in all of our county-owned buildings as well as our parks and trails. KCBA is an architectural firm that has been hired by the county to look at all of our buildings and our assets from top to bottom and providing us with a facility condition and needs assessment report. They're looking at building systems. They're looking at roofing systems, lighting systems, doors, windows, everything in a building, and providing us with how much would it cost to replace this? How much would it cost to renovate this? Does it make sense to continue to keep this in the county, or should we sell it? They're looking at the amount of staff members and the function or the utilization of the buildings, seeing if we should consolidate departments into one building. We have buildings right now that we're renting for different departments. Should we relocate all those departments into one place to save money for the county? And very excitingly, there is a commercial grade energy audit that's going on in each one of our buildings. And that is going to result in a report with energy conservation measures specific to each building. And that goes down to the light bulb. So the energy conservation measures that are being recommended by this consulting firm will tell us the recommended energy conservation measure, relighting, new HVAC, how much that would cost the county, what the return on investment would be in terms of energy savings, and how long it would take to get that return on investment. So this is going to be data that we can use for our next capital improvement program budget next year. And it's very exciting because number one, we're going to be able to prioritize our capital dollars in a way that is equitable because we'll have a baseline of all of our buildings, and we'll be able to decide on how we want to spend money for energy conservation and other greening efforts. This is an example of how the Sustainability Commission is interested in preserving historical sites. So we're not just about greening spaces, we also want to preserve historical sites. The 1724 Chester Courthouse is a great example of that. It's the oldest continually used courthouse in the United States. We're acquiring this building from the Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission. Our council approved to enter into a lease agreement for 99 years at no cost to the county. The state is actually paying for renovations to the facility to bring it into a state of good repair. And the Delaware County Historical Society is going to be responsible for the programming of this property. And it's a beautiful structure. I visited it last week, and it's very worthy of the county investing in to preserve the heritage of the county. Next slide. So these are just some details. We also had facility condition assessment consultant visit the 1724 courthouse to make sure that the state was providing enough funding to bring it to a state of good repair, that there were no roof leaks that weren't included. Our council members were very adamant about making sure that we weren't getting into a building that would be a money pit, that would be a waste of time, and we would see it deteriorate. So that was something that was required by our council members, was to do a facility condition assessment there, and we've done that. This is a very exciting program. Delaware County is working with Chester, Montgomery, and Bucks as part of a Southeastern Pennsylvania Regional Power Purchase Agreement steering committee with the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission, DVRPC. We are working together on an RFP and an MOU to find an energy consulting firm that will help guide us in the right direction. Should we do a power purchasing agreement, meaning we're leveraging all of our power to purchase power for clean energy at the lowest possible cost? So that's something that we are working on right now. This is another exciting program for DVRPC. It's a regional streetlight procurement program where we are replacing thousands of streetlights and traffic signals with LEDs. And this is a very important project because we are providing funding to underserved communities, underfunded communities in Chester City, and County Council has voted to proceed with this. Chester City and the municipalities will be paying back the money for this, but the county's guaranteeing that it will be paid back. And there are benefits to this in terms of beautification, energy conservation, and safety. This is another really exciting program. We have been given 2 Bryn Mawr College students to help us with a local climate action plan. And we are going to be able to inventory our greenhouse gas emissions and develop this climate action plan that will be incorporated into the county's sustainability plan. And the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection has funded this program. A consulting firm called ICLEI is training the students so that they know how to do the calculations for greenhouse gas emissions. It's also included in our FCNA, the Facility Condition Needs Assessment. We'll have the data to help the students with developing these greenhouse gas emissions. But it's the first step to have a baseline as to where is the county with our buildings that are owned by the county in terms of greenhouse gas emissions and the plan for reduction. So as part of the DVRPC Power Purchase Agreement Steering Committee with Delaware County, Bucks, Montgomery, and Chester, we're considering entering into this PJM Cities and Communities Coalition. This is something we're thinking about as a Sustainability Commission. And this will help, if you're familiar with the grid, if you're familiar with PJM, they ensure the stability of the energy grid. A lot of times we don't have the power to directly purchase solar or wind, meaning this building right here, we can put solar panels on this building and that will help this building to be powered by clean energy, but we're still going to be off the grid a lot of time, meaning using the grid. to service us. And so PJM, this is a coalition working to have PJM invest in clean energy so that they're not getting the energy from coal in Idaho that's being brought through the grid to here. So we're trying to influence policy in this way. If you're familiar with the solid waste management plan, it's a mandated plan that Delaware County has to develop every 10 years. I am fortunate enough to come in at the time where we're doing this. And so we are issuing an RFQ by the end of this week for a consultant to come in to help the county with gathering information to develop this plan. And the goals are on the next slide. We want to ensure that the county has sufficient processing and disposal capacity for the 49 municipalities over the next 10 years. That's the number one goal. But we really want to account for alternate sustainable methods for municipal waste processing through the consultation of the Sustainability Commission and taking into consideration our sustainability goals. Of course, the goal is zero waste. That's the ideal, that's the prize. You know, we want to have zero waste. And so we want to ensure maximum feasible waste reduction of municipal waste or source separated recyclable material, assure the effectiveness of the county's recycling programs, and investigate the feasibility of organics collection. If you're familiar with media, they have a really awesome composting program. It's a municipal-wide composting program. All residents can participate in this. And it's very expensive to do, unfortunately. But if we can see how they do that, perhaps we can replicate it in other municipalities and bring down the price. A lot of times it's because there's no receptacle for the organics waste. So media has partnered with Linvilla. And so they have the composting facility. It's about collecting the organics and getting it there. So perhaps if we find a way we can, through this solid waste management plan, perhaps create a large organics waste collection facility in the county. So we want to conserve resources and protect the public's health, safety, and welfare from short and long-term dangers of transporting, processing, treatment, storage, and disposal of waste. Then we can think of the incinerator. You know, is that something we want in our county? How do we deal with it? How do we make it something that is more digestible? What are the safety measures being used there? How are we making sure it's safe? And we want to engage with the county stakeholders and provide extensive outreach during the process of developing the this solid waste management plan. So this really should not say solid waste management plan, it should say Delco Greenways. We're accepting applications for Delco Greenways grant program. All municipalities, including Newtown Township, can apply for funding, and there is no match required. And you just have to have a project that you think is cool. Yeah, you know, something that is a greenways project, whether it's a trail project or a rain garden or something like that. And the opening of the accepting of applications is August 27th, and it goes through September 1st. So it's good to start planning now. Please visit Delaware County's, just search for Delco Greenways and you'll find out how to access that. And that's all I have for now. Thank you for inviting me. Any question?
That was not very much.
I could go on, actually.
How many people are on the commission?
About 17.
And they're all appointed in place?
They are, and their names are all listed on Delaware County's website. Yeah.
And how much staff do you have?
That's a good question. I have an intern and a sustainability program manager that just started last week, who's helping with developing of the plan. But other than that, we have the 7 departments. It's really about leveraging what's going on. There's a lot of really great work going on in the county and all of the different departments. It's finding out what they're doing and then aligning goals and developing metrics, finding out where we are in the baseline of what they're all doing. For example, fleet management. We have 15 electric vehicles that were just purchased, and we're installing 3 electric vehicles charging stations through an AFIG grant, which is Alternative Fuels Incentive Grant Program. That's just one example of the good things that are happening. And there's a lot of them. Our planning department is extremely impressive with the amount of work they're doing for green and open space. As you know, we just purchased, or we're acquiring the largest green space in Delaware County. And that was really many years of work, it seems, by community members, but our county council took the initiative to say, we're going to acquire this land and preserve it. And so that is very exciting. That's just one example of the many good things going on. And my job is to showcase all of that and then build upon it. Yes.
Yeah, very impressive presentation. I have two questions. One is, could you share some of your background? Because you seem to know a lot about this.
Sure, absolutely. So I'm a Philadelphia native. I just moved to Delaware County. I am a graduate of Temple University with a bachelor's degree in biology, master's in environmental health. I'm working on a doctorate from Drexel right now, focusing on children's environmental health. I was with the school district of Philadelphia for 16 years. My last 5 years there, I was working on the school district's sustainability plan, which became an award-winning plan. It took a few years to develop with many stakeholders, but we received the U.S. Green Ribbon Award from the Department of Education for it, the Pennsylvania Governor's Environmental Excellence Award, and a few others. And it was just a really successful, exciting program. But my background is in environmental health. That's where I started out, where my roots were. And so, yeah, that's where I came from.
Congratulations on the award. And my other question was, early in the presentation, you mentioned about, I don't remember the name of it, but doing.
You mean you missed an acronym?
What's the acronym?
So many, actually.
Like an assessment of all the buildings, the county's facilities.
Mhm.
And I'm just wondering, how many are there?
That's a good question. There are quite a few. So there are about 20 buildings, like large buildings, but then we also have parks and recreation structures. So we have campuses. We have the George Hill Correctional Facility that has multiple buildings, and we have the Parks and Rec, multiple buildings. So there's a full list that we can share, but there are quite a few, surprisingly. I mean, for a county, and we're also looking at trails too. So, the miles of trails and open space. So there are quite a few, but there are about a dozen or so large buildings.
So, you talk about this, and it's exciting to hear what the county is doing. Is there any desire with the county to work with municipalities who are also moving towards sustainability? Newtown passed, sustainability resolution that we come to move forward. And it's hard to, with all the resources needed to do that. I mean, obviously you're working with a very small department, but you're leveraging all the other departments working together, and that's kind of what we're going to be doing as well. But is actually municipalities to help them to do some of the same things?
For sure, we want to align our sustainability goals with all the 49 municipalities. And the municipalities that have EACs, we really, really want to connect with all of you. In fact, that seems to be the best venue by which we can discuss sustainability with each municipality through the EAC. So we would like to be able to get together and have all of the EACs come together in a meeting as a starting point to discuss where we're going. And we'd like the EACs to have comment to the sustainability plan that we're putting together. We would like to get some feedback up front, like what are your interests in, so COG, are you familiar with the Council of Governments? I met with them once. They're pretty much the business managers for all of the municipalities of this Council of Government. Yes. So we've gone through that route. So the COGs, the EACs, these are the groups that they have representation from all the municipalities. And that's what we're looking for, to get feedback and to work and align our goals. For example, one of the greatest challenges we're seeing is with waste and recycling and composting. Every municipality seems to have their own way of doing this, though the Solid Waste Authority is kind of there as a central point. And so aligning maybe the language in contracts. So municipalities, some of them use contracts with with the waste haulers and recycling firms, and some have their own sanitation divisions or departments. But we want to come together and agree upon the best way of dealing with this, reducing waste at the source, reducing purchasing, reducing consumption, and then finding ways to reuse, recycle, and organics collections. But that's a great example of how we would like to work with municipalities in that specific tangible topic.
You brought up the concept of doing the purchasing of power, and of course we all deal with that individually as municipalities. I go buy credits, but that's not necessarily buying power that's being truly clean, right?
Yes.
You're buying credit. That doesn't mean that's what you're using to power your building. And so as you're doing that, I assume you're looking to make sure you're buying clean power versus just buying the credit. And my question is that something that the county would look at in offering municipalities to come along in the process? Because obviously that's huge. And the COG is, I've worked with the COG, or I'm on in the COG. And so I mean, it is something that we talked about, how we can work together, but if the county's heading in that direction, it may be easier for us to piggyback versus trying to create yet another group that's doing the same thing.
Exciting for you to say, because first of all, the renewable energy credits that you're talking about, the RECs, those credits, the county's buildings, we use a consulting firm presently to procure energy, and we are purchasing 100% wind RECs, just as an example, if I understand what you're saying about purchasing those. With regards to having the municipalities participate in our power purchase agreement, the answer is we would love to. And so working with the steering committee, with the DVRPC, that was actually brought up recently. Can we include our municipalities in this power purchase agreement? And the answer is I will bring that back to the steering committee and say, I was with Newtown Township and they're interested in it, and I think others would be as well. So I think that's a great idea. We're leveraging our partnership even further with all the municipalities, not just our county-owned buildings.
I mean, it's obvious, the larger the group, the
better
better
the
chance we have of getting even a better price.
Yeah, the clean energy and the best cost.
I think you needed one more staff person to coordinate between the county and municipalities and assist the municipalities in coordinating with each other.
Agreed, a liaison between municipalities. Someone brought that up recently, actually, for the planning department, that there's a need for a community liaison, a municipality liaison, someone to work directly with them. So you're onto something. After listening to what I just said, you calculated that as a need, and it's true. I agree. We'll try to do that.
I didn't hear much about working with the residents of the township. Are there any you got to play full, but are there any plans down the road to promote sustainability?
Yes, so we're looking at sustainability from the county level, the municipality level, individual level. And so one example of how we're trying to work with residents is through Solarized Delco. I mean, Solarized Delco, if you're familiar with them, they're an organization that works with residents and business owners to have solar energy systems installed in a property. And so that's one example of how the county, we're not really doing it directly, but we are trying to work together. But there is a need for us to have equitable access to green resources for all communities and all people and all residents. So there's a need to work on that. There's not a pathway yet. There's not a roadmap, but it is definitely the Sustainability Commission's intention to find a way to bring green resources, whether it be energy, green stormwater infrastructure, outdoor green spaces, energy, everything. We want to make sure that there's equitable access to fresh foods and produce, gardens. So we're calculating that now and trying to map it out for inclusion in the sustainability plan. Thank you for mentioning that. That's important. What can the individuals do, and how do we bring resources to individuals?
You mentioned the Delaware County Greenways and the grant that starts August 27th to September 1st. What exactly, do you know the scope of that grant? We will check it out, but we've got a number of projects, both just some incredible things that the township was working on from parks and from just incredible things that would be wonderful. Do you know what would be the max on some of those grants, or are we looking at just?
It's on the website.
Okay.
I should have remembered. It's pretty, I think it might go up to $500,000.
It's pretty substantial.
Yes, thank
And
you.
we are looking at it.
Okay,
Oh,
okay.
cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty substantial. It could be a park, it could be a playground. But yeah, a trail. Some good resource there.
Perfect.
Thank you all so much. Yes, sir.
What type of electric vehicles did you guys purchase, and what are they used for?
The Bolt.
Okay.
Yeah, the Bolt. Yeah, they're really cute. I drove one a couple of days ago, and they're used for the elections. Folks are using them. It's all we're using it for short distance runs right now until we can figure out how long they're charged for, because the fast powered charging stations are being installed right now. So they're right now have to be plugged in overnight in a regular outlet. But they're also pool vehicles for the county government. Like I said, I've used them actually a couple times. Our intern, if you follow our Twitter page, Delco, Sustain Delco, we have a a sustainability intern, and she is doing a day in the life of a Delco sustainability intern using the EV to go to different places, and it's kind of fun. But yeah, yes.
So where are the 3 electric vehicle charging stations going to be?
One is actually across the street from the government center. The other one is in Darby, Upper Darby. The other one is at Fair Acres, which is the large campus that holds a nursing facility and other offices there. But we hope to get more. We want to have them all over. And they're actually public charging stations as well. They're not just for the county's vehicles.
When you do return on investment calculation, are you looking at kind of soft costs like environmental damage that might be done as a result of acquiring this resource? Or are you just looking at like a business would, pure numbers?
Well, we're looking at the business piece to it, the financial piece. But we are doing the greenhouse gas emission calculations as well. But the consultant who's doing the facility condition needs assessment is doing the return on investment financial only, but they are working on greenhouse gas emission data as well. But it's not tied into that return on investment. That's a great point. We should have that carbon piece. You know, how much is it costing us really? And as we evolve, we can build that in. Yes, sir.
Yeah, going back to the sustainability, the whole structure there, is any of that tied back to the PA sustainability emphasis? Because that's what we adopted as our structure. And so is it similar to what the county's doing? And if so, is there any thought for municipalities that have done a similar adoption in, you know, kind of working like lessons learned kind of thing that, you know, maybe we don't stumble over the same things as we go along, you know, and we take advantage of that.
Yeah, we researched a bunch of different plans, the Sustainability Commission did, but the Pennsylvania plan that is the model for municipalities and counties is part of what we've reviewed to get to where we are right now with our sustainability plan. It's not the exact same thing, but we've taken pieces from it.
More questions? Anybody?
Thank you. Thank you so much for
That was a
having me.
great presentation.
Great.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We're encouraged that your department exists.
Yes.
Next, we have Mr. Joe Pinto
Am I
to
going
do a presentation on.
there?
Yeah, I'll let
Okay.
you do that. I don't know if I can see up there, but you can move on. What about moving the pedestal closer? Is that pedestal movable? It's not, okay.
Not on the live, not.
Yeah. All right.
That's done.
All right, so this has been kind of a year in the making, I think. The idea opportunity probably last August or September. Working on it here and there ever since. So it's been a labor of love. So what the whole consolidation is basically, we're trying to find a single stream waste hauler. Actually, we're proposed to be finding a single hauler. Right now, the township has and trash company rotate circling back and forth all across township picking up trash, and we would like to delete that. And information that we come up with basically supports that. Kind of a no-brainer, I feel like, after I've looked at it multiple times. So hopefully you guys feel that way as well. Okay. All right, so the numbers that we first got were the recycling information. So as you all know, the township does the recycling for all of us, from the households. And we did get solid numbers. That was a little bit of the trickiness of this project, was the fact that we didn't have all the numbers. Recycling info, so a lot of our assumptions are based on the recycling info. So as you can see, the annual cost for the township for recycling pickup is $218,000. There are 4,020 homes that incorporates 2 monthly pickups per home, obviously 12 months a year, which is 24 pickups per home, and then it's an annualized cost per home of $54.39. Fairly cheap. The cost per pickup is $2.27. They use 3 trucks a day. They start very early from what we've been told. And I've seen them actually out there myself at about 7 o'clock in the morning. They run 50 miles of road throughout the township, and we estimated about 10 hours per day per hub. So that gives them a coverage area of about 1.73. So the weight of a full garbage truck is 60,000 pounds. The average cost of diesel fuel is $3.50 per gallon. The average miles per gallon for one of these trucks is 3. The average miles per day that they would take is 131. The annual cost for fuel is $42,000, and typical pickups per day would be 800. Our environmental information is carbon emissions per gallon of diesel fuel is 22.5 pounds. Carbon emissions per truck per pickup day would be 334.29 pounds. And the total emissions per year would be 1,691.54 pounds. All these are based on our recycling. They can change. So approximately, as I said, 10 separate trash companies operate in Newtown Township on 52 miles of road, creating measurable damage to the roads, varying levels of noise pollution, unsafe situations for local drivers and pedestrians. Our first example for trash, we based, like I said, on the recycling model. And we just kind of expanded it to twice, trash pickup for twice a week. So with those numbers, twice a week basically means that are getting almost 104 pickups per year. And if we estimate use the $2.27 for cost of pickup, it would cost each home $231.54, which would be an annual cost for the entire township of $931,790. And again, the other numbers are similar. We use 3 trucks per day, 50 miles of road, estimated about 10 hours, and the coverage is. Example number 2, we base this. This is kind of an example from numbers that Bruce provided me for similar to what Bruce looks at when he takes his action bill. So again, use the same information. The only difference was we changed the total number or the total annual number. So instead of $230 some dollars or whatever, it's actually $480 is what he pays for his service for the year. So that cost basically comes out to cost for pickup of $4.62, obviously double what they're paying for the recycling model. And the annual cost is almost $1 million more at $1.929 million. The estimated of 4 trash trucks per day, 8 hours of operation, say 52 miles, a coverage area of 1.65. Number 3 is my example based on my numbers of what I pay. Now, we took my numbers, basically, I pay for once a week. We wanted it to reflect twice a week pickup, so we doubled those numbers. 772 is the annual cost per year. I paid 86. So it's double of 386. Cost per pickup equates to 743. Is way larger than our recycling model. Our annual cost well over $3 million. So obviously that's very costly. We want the entire township to pay that number. However, with getting the entire township with one waste hauler, we feel like we bargained that number to go down. We use 6 trash trucks per day because obviously it's a little bit more. 6 trash trucks per day because we're not exactly sure with the 10 trash truck companies that operate in the area, how many trucks they have those days. So again, as you see up there, I put question mark. 8 hours of operation, coverage area is about 1.0. We put all these numbers together, used our extreme examples from one end to the other, obviously current and consolidated. The current, which is from my example, is cost per pickup of $7.43. Annual cost per home is $772. Aggregate annual cost is over $3 million. The annual CO2 per home in pounds is 60.49 per home. The aggregate annual CO2 output for all the homes would be 243,173 pounds, and miles driven for that scenario will be 32,423. Our consolidated version, again, based on first likely numbers, 227 per pickup, 232 for annual cost for the entire township of under $1 million. CO2 output, 10 pounds, just over 10 pounds. Annual CO2 output, 40,521 pounds. And the miles driven is significantly reduced, 5,400 pounds. Our differences, as you can see, $5.60 per pickup, or $540 per household per year, and an annual cost savings of well over $2 million. And CO2 savings, CO2 would be down by 50.41 pounds, or an annual aggregate 102,000. And the miles driven and the less damage to our roads would be less 27,020. So the benefits of a single garbage collector would be reduction of our air pollution, noise pollution, road damage, potential accidents, and costs per each home. And it also is a benefit to our sustainable new town square. Possible next steps. Proposal would be find the numbers presented to the board, the supervisors, search the alternatives, and
But is your proposal that the township would negotiate on a bid basis or something, single supplier or vendor, and we would all, just because we live in the township, use that supplier?
correct. That's exactly what I'm saying.
All right.
Whether it's, obviously, there's a lot to work out logistically, whether it's that, we facilitate payment straight to the company and the
Right.
township, however that
What I'm
works.
saying is,
Yes.
what I'm saying is people would not have the option of staying with their original vendor. The trash would be picked up the same way recycle is picked up, one done.
Yep. And we would obviously lobby that proposal to lower the cost for everybody. Which I think if you just look at the numbers, it's
Well, I think, frankly, it's excellent. And you may get over the hump this time because there's so many side benefits that you've listed there,
Yes.
which the supervisors have now expressed support for.
Sure.
This came up about 4 years ago without the amount of thought that you've now given it. And the response was the supervisors were in favor of free enterprise, which meant 10 vendors, or resulted in 10 vendors. But now that we're getting more attuned to these issues, and they are, and have put their name on the line for sustainability, I kind of hope maybe to get more reception.
yes. Agreed.
I don't know if many of you remember, but years ago, we used to have waste management, and this was, I can't even remember if it's been 10 years or so when there was a single service in the township, and maybe even 15 years ago. And I understood that when they became a class 2 township, I understood that they could not restrict a limit, because I had suggested this before too, that we like pick 3 or 4 and just limit it just because of the factors you mentioned, road and all the things. But I understood because we are a class 2, we could not limit that. Is that the case?
Well, I don't know that we can limit, and that is a question. There is some debate as to whether or not the township would have a single hauler. It's interesting because I initially had been told that the township could not. I've done some reading. I think that there's a possibility that the township could. I think we would need to do a little bit more research on that.
But that was another issue when it came up before, whether a second class, township of the second class had the authority to do it. I've looked at the statute. I'm not a real lawyer. I'm just a retired lawyer. I don't think there's much doubt they have the power to do it, but
Yeah,
our lawyer, our solicitor had this view, and he must have had some basis for it, so.
There is some wording, I think it's actually changed when they redid the second class township code. And so I'm interested to go back what it was before the change to see if that's where the change is. But I had always been told that you couldn't in second class. I came from serving in a borough where it wasn't, not only was it it was not even an option. We had to do that as one of the services that we provided.
Right.
It didn't have to be, we could have done it by a third party or we could have done it in-house. And I will tell you, if I have to choose, I will always choose a third party,
Right.
just
Absolutely.
because of some logistics of it. But from a standpoint, I mean, obviously you hit a lot of the great benefits of a single provider. The one thing that I would suggest for the numbers that we would look at, we'd look at specifically from one of the haulers, what their, there's a fee for dumping waste that's different than recycling.
Yes.
And so you want to take that into account.
Sure.
Because that's going to drive our number. I think your carbon numbers don't change.
Right.
But I think your cost numbers do.
Well, we figured this, I mean, Bruce and I talked about this at length, and we figured just the nature of trash itself, heavier, more of it, that the cost is going to be more than $2.27 per pick.
Yeah.
But we still think there's going to be enough savings in there to make it worthwhile.
Yeah, and we'll work with you with some of that.
I have a question too. If we could do it for recycling, why wouldn't we?
You know, it's
The
there's a
recycling is
mandate.
under a different provision, which
Oh, is
says
it?
Steve has to recycle.
Correct.
The township's obligated to do that, and it doesn't apply to just regular.
So my whole question with that was, why isn't it open to multiple recycling?
Well, under the state provision for us for recycling, we have a responsibility to make sure that recycling happens on 4 levels. And so we have to make sure that happens.
And they have to pick up certain categories of stuff when they do that.
Correct.
Okay.
And so that gives us the authority to do that. It's not quite as clear with the solid waste, the other ones.
Right. And years ago, it used to be the way the township ran it is the individual was billed, and there was some that opted out. I mean, I don't know how they got out of it, or they just chose to not have the service, but the township was the one that engaged with waste management, and then we were all, and we were given a flat rate. There was no negotiation either. So that was something that was set by the township's contracts. So we were kind of a party to, whatever the township kind of selected. So that was, some residents had some concern about that. I would make sure that whatever we do, that, like you said, use a third party, because I don't think anyone in the township would want it to be a township employee, because just of the cost, our pensions, all our other, it would be a nightmare. We'd be like Howard Town, Drexel Hill, and all those other
Yeah,
taxes.
I don't think it's a possibility.
The workers' comp is my biggest concern.
Absolutely.
I gotta tell you.
Yeah, I agree with
Yeah, I
you.
don't think that's.
Yeah. But also,
I can afford the salaries, I can afford the pensions,
but-
it's the workers' comp
Right.
that gets you over there.
but what we'd also like to do is,
Workers' comp.
Yeah.
It's the highest, I mean, you have the highest number of accidents
right,
of employees on trash trucks.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they get hurt, it's terrible. But question 2 is, I know that these are wonderful things and this is fantastic to look at it, but I also think it's really important that we bring to the table the idea of reducing, because I get it with recycling, make it convenient for the resident and, but they also have to take some responsibility of the trash they make. And what can they individually do to reduce? And, getting Amazon packages I got a box the other day. It was 3 boxes for a bloody package. And it's simple. So we have to take responsibility ourselves of what we can do. And so I also don't want us to make recycling so easy for them that they don't take some ownership as well. So it's a balancing of all the needs, because everyone has to step up.
I want to shop the idea around too, that the off savings that we could incur by this would actually warrant maybe an actual employee through the township to facilitate all of it. There would be enough savings cost-wise.
An employee would be safe too. He wouldn't be on the back of the trash.
No. You sit in the office somewhere.
Well,
I mean, at least through a
I think
single
you're talking about
vendor,
whatever logistics with the recycling.
through a single vendor, you at least have a little bit more control over that as well, just communicating and making sure reducing trash and things like that. I can say as a resident, I would love to not have to deal with another bill every month, right? You just pull your recycling and your trash out the curb. I don't know.
But you would get it, because the township, gonna commit, but you're gonna
Right.
get.
Or is it built into taxes, or is it?
It
It
depends on
can
the way
be
you set up.
either way, and I do think that's the main question, is whether the township can bill you through the taxation side. There is a real question of the legality of that. I think we could do it through a fee. I'm not sure we could do it through taxes. And so, and it may be that we can't. And there's people that are out there that study this stuff and try to figure it all out who are smarter than me, and that's why we pay the
Must be
attorneys.
case studies or precedents on that's
Yeah.
right.
And I know there's second-class townships that are doing trash, so it's not that it's not being done. The question is it being done within the second-class township code, and is it being done the way that it's supposed to be being done? So you'll find townships of the second class that do it. I know that because I've talked to several, but it doesn't always mean they're doing it right. And so we just want to make sure we are.
But Steve, on the basic issue, the supervisors a little better than we do. They're open to this, consider. I'm not going to hold you to it. I'm just
I think it's like anything. I think there are some board members that would be very open.
Good.
And I think there's some board members who would say, I don't want to lose the ability to choose who my hauler is for trash and how often it is. I mean, some people really don't want trash twice a week. Some people are very happy.
Twice a week.
Right.
I don't
Bruce and I, we only have 1 week.
But I know people that have it twice.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so it's,
But I mean, they could just drive past and for heaven's sake.
On the
Oh,
subject
you're
of,
saying.
but the bill would probably be based on a twice a week pickup.
Right.
But on the subject of residents wanting to keep their existing trash company for one reason or another, we couldn't force them to say, use our service and pay us, and as well as paying your existing trash company.
I thought
That's
before, when
gonna
we had
happen,
waste
but-
management, this was the only game in town. That was what you were basically told. You didn't have any other.
I don't know how we would go out to bid
Not have-
to a waste hauler
Right.
and say, I don't know how many customers you will have. Some may participate, some may not.
Yeah.
Some may want once a week, some may want twice. I think we would have to say, it's going to be
this.
X,
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah,
X is.
It's illegal
Yeah.
for another company to come in our township to pick up trash.
I can get what you're saying.
I think that's the other side of the coin. He's got to promise them a given number of customers.
And
Or-
before, the
well, maybe
businesses
he
were
doesn't.
exempt from that, though.
Bruce would say he should be able to keep it, or maybe she would say to be able to get their own customers, but she has to pay as if township vendor was, not many people who love their trash man that much.
Right. I think it's the economies too. Right now, I would only be concerned with the temperature of residents, because I know I was hit heavily with my taxes. My county, school, town, everything went up astronomical, especially because I've been here for so long. So you also have to remember those who've been here longer and on fixed budgets, their temperature for this might be a little different. So I think it's really important. We always have to look at ways to promote responsibilities with our trash and things, but we also have to think of the economies for individual homeowners, and balancing all the needs is, I think if we promote it to the community and let them know about it, it's really important. So we're transparent in the process and they don't feel that you're demanding for them. You know, so it's important.
I think obviously there's more stuff to shake out here.
Yep.
One of which is the numbers. There's a couple spreadsheets sitting behind this we can talk about, share with Rich. And there's also implementation alternatives that have to be discussed. If I was a trash company and bidding on 44,000 homes, where would I get the resources, the extra trucks to take that load? And if I didn't get the contract the following year, I still have these trash trucks.
Yes.
So maybe you have to do by zone or something like that. But there's a lot of stuff that has to be shaken out.
It'll be a multi-year contract.
I know it's very popular though. I know I've surveyed my street and we've got kids riding bicycles on the street and trash trucks going 40 miles an hour. It's dangerous.
I don't think the township would be opposed to figuring out a way to reduce the number of trash trucks
Yes.
on
Yeah.
any street.
Right.
I mean, that would be a win for us for sure. And in addition, you know, it is wear and tear on our streets.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
They, you know, every time a trash truck comes down there, you know, that's
Exactly.
some wear and tear, and we know that.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I'm not going to say that I wouldn't be excited to limit that.
Yeah.
How we do that becomes a question.
But we would still let, the businesses would be exempt, correct? Because that's the way they were before. Businesses were not,
We didn't look at business. That's
Yeah.
more complex.
yeah.
I mean, even now, for recycling purposes, most businesses do that on their own.
Can we piggyback on, say, like the door bill? Something like this, if it were.
It's a little bit harder because the municipal authority is separate. I'm not saying we couldn't,
Okay.
we would just have to work through it. They would have to agree for us to have this, use the same bill.
Okay. I was just saying, I think if that would be, bill everybody.
There's all kinds of challenges with that too.
Yeah.
I can't stop picking up your trash if you don't pay.
Yeah, I
But-
think it's best
but-
if the company, either.
but-
That's true.
I mean, if I take that on, I now have to do it.
Yeah.
But Mascara or Waste Management or whoever, if you stop paying, they'll just stop showing up, you know.
Yeah. I think further discussion is warranted.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I'll put out a motion that we vote on who we proceed with our, the effort to continue that further evaluation with a target towards putting a presentation together to the supervisors. So when do I have a second for the motion I just made?
A second.
Okay. And let's have a vote. Carol, do you think we should do it?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Like we had everybody voting.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Oh, that's right. Forgot about Janet.
Yes, to further discussion, but not
Yeah.
definitely doing anything to get the numbers.
I'd make a couple just comments.
Sure.
One is, I recommend working with Rich
Yep.
to help refine some of the numbers and look at some of that.
Mhm.
And we can help get some information
We made a
related.
number of assumptions, as you can tell.
Yeah, and they're good assumptions.
Yeah.
I mean, they really are good assumptions. Secondly, just to be aware, this is a perfect, I just want to show you it as a perfect example. This, had we been in September,
Mhm.
we would have said you couldn't do what you just did.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
oh, so that you understand
Right.
how the law works,
Mhm.
because that actually took from deliberation and took a step to keep moving forward, and you're taking a vote.
Okay.
So we would want to add to the agenda
Mhm.
that you are, like, if it's a discussion and potential action item,
I understand.
we want to add that down under either new business or something going forward, just so that you know.
Sure.
Okay?
I'll spend some time with Joe, and I'll sit down with Rich and get him a spreadsheet that we put together.
And we'll reach out to a couple of the trash haulers just to get an idea of if they'll give us a number. It's hard for some of them because they have their own landfills and it's a little different how they operate.
Mm-hmm.
But for those that are actually going to and having a dump, there's a charge per dump.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
the tip fee, yeah.
Another question too is with that, and if we could bring that in, is do we really want the least expensive or do we want those who are being responsible with the trash? So
True.
that's a cost that we might be incurring a little bit more to get a greener effect. So we have to think of that as well.
Yep,
Yeah, I
makes
would add
sense.
that to the list of
That's critical,
criteria,
yes.
is to understand where the trash is going.
Yes.
How it's being disposed.
So I don't
And
want-
may I add the compostable component to this?
Yeah, I think that when and if we move forward on this, your point, Janet, that would be a great opportunity to raise the idea of either household composting or to liaison back to the Delaware County Sustainability Coordinator and see what Media's doing. But you said in Media, their program was very costly, so that might not be something we want to take on at the township level, but it's certainly, if you're talking to residents about trash removal, that you could make composting part of that conversation.
Well, and also composting through 4-H, we could look at, Urban Roots or Garrett Williamson. And also then by doing so, we'd be able to offload some of the amount of the trash because it would no longer go into that single. So it's something we need to really kind of factor into it because if we can reduce the amount, that is really important.
Okay, next subject is Facebook. It's combination learning on my part and I guess everybody else, and also talking about things like what's our ultimate objective for having a Facebook page and doing some posting. Who are we going after? How are we going to measure metrics? What is the message we're going to convey? So just wanted to spend some time brainstorming on that. Leading, you comfortable talking about some of the metrics that we put together?
Yeah, so when we last talked about this back in June, this was an idea that was hashed out as a way to engage community, right, on sustainability, everything that we're doing, the EAC and the township. It's a great way to engage residents, right, and communicate. We kind of did a sort of pilot over the past couple of weeks, right? And the goal today, I think, is to get support from the township on what we're doing and kind of get some ideas on maybe a process. It's not about just posting whatever, like we want to have kind of a calendar of things coming up over the next couple of months, things that we want to communicate, things like that. So, without really doing a whole lot over the past couple of weeks, just basically inviting the individuals in this room and then, half a dozen people or so organically finding the page on Facebook. There's, 55 or so impressions or people that saw posts, right? And the biggest post was, basically a link to the township website about the inspection at Ellis Preserve. That garnered a lot of feedback and positive feedback and reach. So the rest of these one of these is a post about the Don Guanella acquisition by Delaware County, and then one was a reshare from Leonard about one of the I forget, either the bat homes or So just some of those activities, just promoting it, cross promoting it, some of these different groups. What Parks and Rec is doing and what some of these third party organizations that we partner with. So this is really just I'll call it a pilot, but where do we go from here? How can we scale it, and looking for support as well from the township. And
I think we're also looking to delineate what's the township message and what's an EAC message.
Yeah, and obviously we want to be very mindful, nothing biased, political, anything like that. And it's a township assets that need to be able to, residents need to be able to comment if they want, but we don't have to engage, from there. So
I guess the question is too, is our role as the EAC is we are by extension, an arm of the township. So I would say that everything that we put out, even if it's through the EAC, should be put through the township, because they should have the ability to, because there is a township policy on how you handle Facebook comments. I understand certain things you don't comment on or whatever. And I want to make sure that we are consistent, because environmentally, sometimes green initiatives might be really important to all of us. And we also don't want to complicate the message of the township. So how do we make sure that if it's within, who's controlling the township Facebook? I mean, our Facebook EAC, is it under the direction of the township, or who is, behind the scenes in terms of?
Dane is driving a car right now.
Okay, so does Dane check with township on everything? Because right now, everything that I put through, I send through to Nick, and it's basically to make sure that the township's approving it, and then they send it out. So I guess I just want to make sure that we understand what is the process and what everyone agrees to, because it is an arm of government.
One of my things that you post as yourself, right? Not as a.
No, I certain things I have the township post, because right now we don't have the township doesn't have the communications director. And we hope Kathy used to do that. And there's some limitations to Facebook. And so certain things the township will post, and then I share to the public groups. But I would like not to have to do that. But that's the goal of when that person is hired at whatever time. But I'm just kind of filling in the gaps to make sure this information gets disseminated. But I don't think that it's best for me, because again, it goes off of your algorithms, who visited your site. I would prefer Newtown Township build up its Facebook page, because right now we're only, I think, like 1,200 people. It really needs to be able to share information to get even higher. Now, Leonard has, I think, like close to 4,500 people, and he is the first one. When I'm sharing information, I send it out to him, because Facebook algorithms, it only goes off to a portion of the people that are from his base even. So not everyone sees it. So when you send out that link, I invited people to share it immediately, just to bring up your numbers. And then you need people to respond to these things. So that's why I also don't want to dilute from the township's page, because if they're the message coming out of, you really kind of want to make sure that channel is active and it's vibrant and people commenting. That's how you bring up the numbers.
I would ask, even this question is, how often do you see having a post from EAC? Because what I've learned, and I am not a Facebook guru, I'm anything but, I think Facebook's got a purpose, and I'm happy for that purpose. I've chosen not to participate. With that, my question really comes back on I understand that there's a sweet spot of posting the right amount to get people to be interacting with your page, and not posting too much so they just want to shut you off. There's that, and that's why I'm asking, where is, and I'm hearing that we need to be posting as a township somewhere between 2 to 4 times a week, most likely, to be doing what for our page to work well. And my guess is the EAC would be a similar kind of thing if it's going to work well. I don't think that changes because it's a township versus the EAC. And then if that's the case, are we better combining what we're trying to accomplish versus doing it separately? And anything that is posted by this group, you're doing it on behalf of the township. And so you have to take that into account. You can post individually on your own Facebook pages if you choose to, but whatever we post on the EAC page is on behalf of the township. And so the question that I would have then is, what's the process that we're going to use to do that?
No trouble with getting an approval, as far as I'm concerned. We want an approval, actually, before we post something.
Well, I was just making a list of some infrastructure that might help having a Facebook page. And Dane, you sound like you know about this type of thing, so maybe you can weigh in. But it seemed like you might want to have a policy of what can be shared and what couldn't be shared. You might want to have an editorial calendar where you were talking about being more proactive and having a schedule content so that you have, because it's this constant, the beast you have to feed
Yes.
2 to 4 times a week. And then what is the actual process or mechanism for who, if we have ideas or we write something, a post that for the calendar, what's the mechanism? Who puts it up there? Do you put it up there? Or you said you sent it to Legal. There should be a process for who gets it on there. And then part of this, you could have content guidelines that would differentiate between what would be appropriate content for the township versus appropriate content for the EAC. And to me, I think there are plenty of topics that would suit both, because to me, the people that are coming to the EAC site are coming for specific types of information. They are the people that have a different interest level. They care about solar energy more than the average person, or recycling, or gardening, or stormwater. So I would think that the type of content and the depth and the minutia that would be appropriate for the EAC site might not be of interest to the people going to the township. Now, in terms of categories of content, it seems or objectives, you might have posts that are related to transit, and that is the Ellis Preserve. You know, that there's something happening in the government that is environmentally related that you think people should know about this. Then you have educational information. Now, I know as part of the MS4 program, the township is required to two components of that are public education. So you can just educate people. Why is stormwater important? Why should you plant a native tree? Just kind of generically, important, interesting education about a variety of environmental topics. The third topic would be involvement, that you want someone to come and do something. You want someone to come and participate in yoga. You want someone to help plant the rain garden in September. You want volunteers to plant the trees in October. So you're trying to get involvement in things. You want people to come attend the native plant pop-up garden. And then there might be news and events of things that are happening, like you mentioned, the Don Guinella estate. That's not a township level thing, but it's related, it's an environmental topic of interest to residents, and activities like that. So I think if you put some structure around this, we could address a lot of the issues, and that might be the next step. I'm trying to go back to what was your question or your ask for today?
Yeah. No, I think that is putting some framework around it makes a lot of sense. And, I'm good, either. I think we should agree, do we want to just, maybe I could work as a liaison to Nick to help him promote one post a week that's related to the EAC or related to what we kind of build out a calendar. And that way we're not kind of cannibalizing or anything like that on attention, with the township.
And I'm not a Facebook expert, but in terms of your fear of cannibalizing the township, again, I don't know how this works, but I would think that there would be a way that you could post environmental related content on the EAC site and then somehow share it or like it or something to the township page where there's some synergy there rather than drawing away.
There's a group called the Delaware County Environmental Group that Matters, and that's a similar type of group that shares environmental things from a county perspective. And again, there are a far less number of people that are interested in the details that, like you said, would be interested in talking anything from native trees to solars. So I guess we have to look at who the target audience is and what message are we trying to get to and how are we trying to deliver it. Facebook, technically, guys, is for older people. And Instagram, Twitter is for what the younger people are. We have to look at the demographics of our township. Majority of the younger ones would be looking at Instagram and Twitter. So Facebook is for older people, and I'm one of them.
And my understanding is that's changing again. I don't even know what the new platform is.
TikTok is gone. TikTok is over now even, and that's TikTok is done. You're considered and they're 19 and that's considered old now. So there's a new platform. So what we have to say is to stay vibrant, stay communicative, say these things. It's important. And I understand, what's this, the communications director, is that person getting hired this year, or what's the stance on that?
So with the communications, I think we're actually going to go to a third party versus bringing somebody in-house for a couple of good reasons.
That's great.
And I actually am going to be presenting that next Monday night. I have that person coming and doing a short presentation. So if you're interested, feel free to watch online or be here. But yeah, we want to get going, and I'm not 100% sure that we have a position that's full-time in communications, but this will allow us to take some of the monies that we had set aside for that purpose and really focus and target on communications the way we want to do them. One of the things that this person would do is come in and do a full evaluation of where we are today, what we do, what we don't do, and make some recommendations. Particularly looking at our website. We spend a lot of time putting our website together. We have a ton of information on our website, but I hear all the time that people can't find things on it. And,
that's a common criticism of every website. I mean, there's no solution to that. I mean,
well, but what can we do to make it better? And she actually gave me 4 or 5 things that she thought we could do today to make our website better.
But I think speaking to Dane's point, EAC has done some incredible work.
Sure.
So EAC should be promoting just like the sustainability and everything. I mean, Janet's been talking about Ready for 100. We've done some really incredible things. So we definitely need to do a better job of messaging that out to the community, because we haven't been silent. And the EAC, I think the leadership, you guys have just been fantastic and really ignited a lot of wonderful things. And I think EAC is phenomenal. Of course.
So I think getting the information out is huge.
Yep.
And if we can,
Messaging.
if we can figure out how to message and use both, that's great. I just think that we need to make sure that it works through. I think ultimately, because it's communicating on behalf of the township, I just know that we need to run it through the board and make sure they're in agreement with where we're headed with it and what we're going to do.
Would the board want to get involved in every post, or just the
No,
process?
I think what I'm saying is, I think the board should be approving the concept of an EAC Facebook page that's separate, and then they determine for you. I don't think they want to see every post. I mean, they don't see every post that we put on Facebook, and they don't want that. I mean, obviously, there's certain things that I don't put out without them seeing it.
Sure.
And if I think it's a sensitive topic, I make sure that they review it before it gets put out, because I like my job and I want to be here a long time.
Hold on. Will this outside person you're proposing the township retain, will they be as sensitive to the sensitive issues as you are?
Well, they won't post anything anywhere without us reviewing it.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean,
they're not going to be given substantive.
I don't have full reign. So I'm not, there's no way we're getting full reign to any one person.
Yeah, and she's just going to probably, if it's a she, be just getting the message, disseminating the
She's
message.
going to need direction.
Yeah.
Helping us to do it well.
Yeah.
And to, they may be generating content from the facts that we give them to put it out in a way that it communicates it well.
Right.
That's the kind of thing that
I thought there was going to be a point person to review stuff, but no.
Final review will probably come between me and the board.
Yeah.
As it does now.
So may I mention that there's probably an overlap with Newtown Square and Bloom? Because a lot of things that we are interested in environmentally, Newtown Square and Bloom is also. So there might be a way that the two groups could become connected and get more followers.
And also, you can pay to get, that's one thing the township should be doing, and as if you guys really want to promote the EAC, you could pay, like $12 a week or whatever at Facebook, and you it promotes your ads out to other people. So again, it's the algorithms feed onto themselves. So there's a lot of things that we could do. And what I just want to make sure is keep the townships strong, because you need, that's your first row for all information, and then let everyone else kind of feed into that.
Stepping back to a bigger thing, I think our target is homeowners, quite frankly. My daughter couldn't care less about what the EAC is doing. She likes the idea, but even if she cared about it, she couldn't take real action, because, quite frankly, I run the show at the household. I'm making a decision about composting or not.
Right.
Whatever we do. And we looked years ago about putting our own list together, mailing list for the EAC, and it was virtually impossible. We got to 25 people we felt like were doing good.
Yeah.
And
That's email.
I mean, email, right.
Yeah.
And us putting a list together makes absolutely no sense. And I was encouraged by, I'm new to Facebook too. I was encouraged about all the dialogue that takes place under the Newtown Square Community Group. Is that the?
There's like 4 of them: Newtown Square Community Network, Newtown Square Community, Newtown Square Community Town Watch, and Marple Newtown's Community. And then you really know you're from Newtown Square Community, and then there's like 5 or 6 of them. And I'm in all of them only because I share information to each one of them. So, and then that isn't even next door, which is another type of.
Well, it's funny that you said that, because I was just thinking.
And
that
next door is
when
considered
you
old.
when you said, promoting the EAC, the things that we've done and stuff like that, I immediately thought about next door. And to your point, what you were just saying about, like, Facebook's obviously a great platform for certain things, but I mean, do we want to be a little bit more localized with something on Nextdoor, because that is more community driven? It's more of a localized network. Would we do both? I mean, I don't know, but I was thinking about it as we were talking.
Yeah, I'm on there,
Yeah.
But look at Greer Park, the scenario that we went through with that. And when we were putting information out in community platforms like that, and some people wanted to hijack that conversation and make it into something that it wasn't. So they wanted to make it look like the environmental factors weren't a part of Greer Park, when everything that was done for Greer Park was done with environment as being front of that entire project. So that's what I'm concerned about, because we don't want to, this is the place for public discourse an environmental issue, or before the supervisors. We don't want the platform of Facebook being where people just, put up their comments, whether they're right, wrong, or ignorant, or whatever, and us having to address them. That's another concern, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, we have a policy from the township side. We do not respond to any comment, good, bad, or indifferent. We put out information. That's our goal when we go to Facebook or Twitter or whatever we're putting out on. And we do that for a very specific reason, because I don't want to get into a conversation on Facebook and trying to defend a township position, because if that's going to happen, that needs to happen here, or it needs to happen in the board meeting. I mean, I could spend all day if I was doing that, and it's not a good use of township resources to do that. So, when I look at, even with the EAC page, I would argue we're going to do that. That's great, but it should only be for the purpose of putting out information, not for the purpose of creating dialogue. And that's the goal. We're using it as dialogue is going to happen. It can happen here. If dialogue is going to happen, it can happen to the board of supervisors. That's very important.
And I think Leonard had a good point last meeting that I don't think you can turn off comments. I think there's
Laws, if you,
case
right.
study, case law, whatever, that government agencies can't turn off commenting, but we don't have to engage. We don't want to. That's the last thing I want to get.
And Steve, to your point,
Been on a rabbit hole here all
obviously,
day.
obviously there are policies and processes in place for the township Facebook page. So to me, the place to start for any EAC page would be to follow those.
6:30, perfect time to conclude. I think that we found out further discussion of Facebook's requirement makes sense. I think it'll be a great vehicle for us to communicate. got a lot to say, and we haven't done real well in our reach out portion of our charter. Residents should know what we're up to and what we're promoting. Haven't done that. That said, we'll an end to the meeting.
Just let me verify something on related to that. You're not ready yet to go back to the board, is my understanding with this.
No.
You want to do some more homework.
Exactly.
I'd be interested to hear what this agency that you're considering hiring would have a lot of input on what we do.
Yep.
We all have to do is use Facebook extensively over the next 30 days, so we can figure out how it works.
Everyone, if you can invite your friends, if you look on the link that Jane sent us, and then you go in and invite friends, and so what I did is everyone in Newtown Square that I know, I invited them to join, and that's how you bring up your number.